More Cardinals legends are coming back to help the team on the field, as well as a deep dive into the Cardinals ace and a new pitch he's developing to help him out next season. And lastly, a brief look into how the best of team in the division traded away possibly their best player. Thank you for tuning in to the St. Louis Cardinals Daily Podcast. My name is Andrew Teuscher, and let's talk about that first point. I mentioned in the last episode that Yadier Molina was going to be taking on a special assistant role to the president of baseball operations and would be working with the Cardinals minor league catchers and developing a curriculum and supporting them, which is absolutely amazing. We love to see it, and it's a role that's perfectly made for Yadier Molina as he works his way more and more into being a part of this Cardinals front office. However, it doesn't stop there. More Cardinals legends are being asked to step in at spring training and do more stuff. And it wasn't that long ago, I remember articles going out that there weren't as many Cardinals legends being invited to spring training and asked to be around. This was a few years ago whenever everyone was up in arms about the Cardinals' vibes being really, really bad. And truthfully, they probably were. And we've been a little bit of time since then, and now we're seeing more and more Cardinals legends coming back. One of which, David Freese, was asked to be there last year, and he's coming back this year. Along with David Freese, Adam Wainwright is expected to be at the Cardinals spring training to help out with some of the young players there in Florida. Derek Gould mentioned in his article, Adam Wainwright has been invited to spend time in uniform at spring training, and David Freese has been asked to return after his experience as a guest this past year at spring training. He goes further on to say that not only will David Freese be at spring training again this year, but he's had talks with the front office about establishing a formal role potentially. Now, both sides have to decide if that's what they would like to do going forward. It's nothing set in stone. We haven't heard that there's an offer that's been put out there, but it seems like there might be mutual interest and they're talking about maybe doing something going forward. And we love that. The Cardinals team is already full of so many legends supporting them, whether it be Willie McGee or Jose Oquendo or John Jay. Those guys aren't quite to the level of David Freese or Adam Wainwright in Cardinals legend lore, and certainly not Yadier Molina. But we already see this from the Cardinals. They bring back the greats of the past, and they try to get them a role with the team and helping them in the future. And that's one of the things the Cardinals do great. That's why we have our whole Cardinal way that's fallen to the wayside a little bit with some recent failures, but that's part of the reason the Cardinals have stayed so consistent is bringing in these guys from the past to really reestablish all of that stuff. So I think that's exciting and can only be a good thing, having guys like Adam Wainwright, who's notoriously an awesome guy, and David Freese, who the humble young-town hero, has been known to be extremely helpful around the team, on top of, again, Yadi being in his formal role. I think this is a great thing for the team. It's really cool as a fan to get to hear that they're going to be having this role, and hopefully the team grows more from it, and maybe David Freese finds himself in a formal role along with Yadier Molina, which would be awesome. Going on, wanted to do a little bit of a deep dive into our Cardinals ace. I did a little bit of a deep dive into the back end of the Cardinals rotation in a previous episode. Now let's look at the top of the rotation. Matthew Liberatore is the Cardinals ace for next year, if we can even call him that. He's projected to potentially be the best guy. He had a decent season last year, an okay season, and we're hoping he grows more into being the prospect we traded Randy Arozarena for. Well, let's look at what he's been and let's look at where he's going. He turns 26 this year, so still a relatively young player who's just getting into his prime right now. Hopefully he can grow more off of what he did last season, because last season wasn't spectacular. It was merely acceptable. If he was our fifth starter, we'd be real excited, like talking about, and the upside this guy has. What if he's contributing something more? And instead we're looking at him and Dustin May to be the leading this rotation. Anyway, last year he had an 8-12 record with a 4.21 ERA, 122 strikeouts through 151 innings pitched. Definitely not some kind of big, crazy strikeout guy. His FIP was slightly better than his ERA, which you like to see at 4.03, and his ERA plus was right at 97, so a slightly below average pitcher, but essentially average at that rate. We like the ERA. The ERA is fine. It's, again, perfectly acceptable for a 4 or 5 hitter or 4 or 5 pitcher, but you'd like to see more strikeouts out of a guy you hope could grow into being an ace. Before 2025, it was worse than that. And so, honestly, 2025 was a little bit of development. Before 2025, he played in 91 games, but only had 24 starts as the Cardinals did this weird back and forth thing with him that I really don't think was good for his development. And through those first 91 games, he had a 4.99 ERA and an ERA plus of 84. So this has been growth. This has been better for Liberatore, and his season was an absolute roller coaster. He had an excellent first couple of months with the Cardinals, and everyone was talking about how he could be taking the next step. And this is early in the season when the Cardinals were actually looking pretty good and exciting, and everyone was talking about this young team that's kind of coming out of nowhere. And then with Liberatore went the team, and I don't think it was obviously Liberatore not doing as well had some sort of connection to us failing, but he wasn't carrying the team by any means, but he was playing really well. Saw a major dip in the summer, and then in September we saw him have an ERA that reflected what we'd hope out of him as an ace on the team. So hopefully he can get back to what he was doing at the end of the season. You like to see a guy finish better than he was in the middle of the season. It shows growth, it shows development, it shows that the league isn't figuring him out, and yet he is figuring out the league. At least that we can hope for. Of Redbird Rants, Thomas Galvain had a great article looking into Liberatore and some of his struggles and where they may have come from, and a new pitch that might come to help these struggles, because his main struggles was against right-handed hitters. And as a left-handed pitcher, struggling against right-handed hitters is going to be a real problem. There's just more righties than there are lefties in the league. So you have to be able to figure things out in order to compete against righties. It's not like some right-handed pitchers who get shelled against lefties. You can hide that a little bit more. You can't hide as a lefty who sucks against righties. Against righties last year, he had a 265 average against, a 304 on base, and a 426 slug for a 730 OPS, and 16 of his 19 home runs came off of righties. Not terrible numbers, but a 730 OPS is slightly above average in MLB, and it's not when you want to be consistently giving up. It also reflects that he had this massive roller coaster, so at the end of the season and the beginning of the season, he was actually getting righties out really well. But he saw that really peak in the middle of the season, causing lots of issues. And because of this, Liberatore has been looking into developing a new pitch to help him going forward. He got on an interview with Jim Hayes on a great podcast, Cardinal Territory. I think I do a good job here. I can't say I can give the insights that guys like, Matt Holliday, Jim Hayes, and Kyle Gibson are. I think they do their own thing there, and they get connections with great guys like Matthew Liberatore, who came on to talk about some of his development with this new pitch, and he had this to say: "There is a potential extra pitch in the works right now that I think can help me quite a bit against righties. I'll break it out in the spring this year, but I've been throwing it in bullpens this offseason so far, and I think it could really be a weapon for me." And that's what you want to hear out of Liberatore, is that he's got a plan for how he could be better next year, because obviously the status quo was not holding up. And Galvain, writing his article, had a really good guess at what this secret pitch was, because Liberatore refused to say what it was on the podcast so he could protect himself. So he's not just telling teams, hey, now be ready for this pitch against me going into this year, which I know they'll see it in spring training. But he declined to say, and we will respect that. But Galvain said that he guesses it's a sweeper, which I think would make a lot of sense. He already throws a slider and a curveball, and a sweeper is kind of a combination of the two. It's not quite as fast as a slider, but it's a little bit quicker than a curveball. Moves more than a slider, not as much as the curveball, though. And there's been some lefties that have recently adopted this pitch that have really helped them in their careers, including Max Fried, Ranger Suarez, and Clayton Kershaw also added it because everybody in LA was adding a sweeper at the time. It was like a forced thing from the front office there, and Clayton Kershaw developed it, and it did help him late into his career as things were starting to teeter off for him. Great career, Kershaw, but we still own you. So Liberatore hopefully is developing this pitch to help him with righties, because if he can get righties out consistently, we could see Liberatore probably not be a true ace in baseball. We just have to be honest with ourselves. He has decent stuff. It's not top-notch, not blowing guys away. Strikeouts just aren't there for what an ace needs to be nowadays. But I do hope he could be a solid 2-3 starter, something the Cardinals can have going forward that they feel good about. You guys tell me in the comments, though, what do you think about Liberatore? Do you think this new pitch could really help him out? And what do you think the new pitch could be for you baseball sickos that want to dive into that sort of thing? And the last thing I want to cover here is I don't mean to cover other teams other than the Cardinals, and especially not our division mates. But when someone in our division ends up trading a player or bringing in a player of substantial status, I have to bring it up. And the Brewers just traded away one of their best players, if not their best player. Definitely their best asset if you consider cost, because he was only going to make $8 million next year. Dude hasn't hit free agency yet. He was coming off an excellent 2025 season before being traded to the New York Mets, where he had a 5.5 WAR, a 2.70 ERA, a 17-6 record, 204 strikeouts, 176 innings pitched, and he finished 5th in the Cy Young. And the Brewers said, "You're out of town, buddy." He had 1 year left on his deal, and this is what the Brewers constantly do. The Brewers have become a lot like the Rays or the Cardinals of the recent past, where they have this devil magic of developing guys, and they're more like the Rays, where they trade away these guys and refuse to give them any extensions. Luckily, the Cardinals don't do that. In return, the Brewers got back a decent haul, truly something that is worthwhile probably for Peralta. They got back shortstop Jet Williams, who is the 30th best prospect in all of baseball, and the Mets' 5th best prospect, Brandon Sproat. And get to know those names. You know they're going to destroy the Cardinals, torch them every single year going forward. Again, this Brewers magic has got to be stopped. It's okay when we did it. It's not cool when you do it, Milwaukee. That's our thing. But Peralta's out of town, and I know the Cardinals aren't competing next year, and he probably would have been gone soon. But you love to see that the Brewers are getting worse. They're our division mates. Hopefully these prospects don't pan out for them. Odds say they will, but I think it's definitely something worth noting as we're watching the Brewers next year. Hey, we'll have at least one easier trip through their rotation as they seem to find pitching everywhere. We already have to deal with this Mizorowski guy for the next few years. So we'll see what we got going forward from the Brewers. We'll keep covering your Redbirds every single day here on the St. Louis Cardinals Daily Podcast. Thank you again for tuning in. Make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Get in the comments. Let me know what you guys think about this Freddy Peralta trade, Liberatore's new secret pitch, as well as how excited are you guys to see David Freese and Adam Wainwright hanging out with the team in spring training. We're certainly going to get some excellent clips on that from social media. My name is Andrew Teuscher. Thank you guys for tuning in.